two, one.
Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. The Arcade Cabinet, a podcast for gamers, by gamers. We got Bill Tindo, Chapata, Sharon the Painter, Harrington, and Fiery Fox. And we are the Arcade Cabinet crew. Hope everybody's out there enjoying their time today. So, does anybody want to let the listeners know what we're going to talk about today?
I got it. You know what we're talking about today is video game companions. Oh, yeah. You know, that sidekick, that player two, or computer player, you know.
I thought you was going to say that side chick. No, I'm just playing. All right.
Be a side chick, you know, and tell us. You know, but man, I got the perfect one right now. Video game companions that I love is in Star Fox, you know.
Right?
We had Slippy the Toad. We had Pippi. Right. I believe it was Pippi O'Hare. And we had, oh man, what was the other guy? The Eagle. I can't think of his name. But, you know.
I can't remember it either.
Falco. His name was Falco. You know, and they weren't really, you couldn't control them. But they were like really cool. Like, you know, because they would fly beside you. And oftentimes you would have to protect them. You know, sometimes, like, you know, if you made the wrong move, I think Slippy was always the first one to go. You know, he was always kind of like the one that would screw up. And then you had Falco, who was like the other bad boy. You know, he was kind of like your wingman. He was kind of like your Maverick
to your Goose.
Goose. Yeah, he was kind of like a Goose character, you know. And then you had the father of the group, who was Peppy, the rabbit. You know, and eventually in the new Star Fox Adventures that came out on the GameCube, they didn't take him out of the game, but they took him out of the ship, and he just kind of ran like the mothership, and they brought in another character. I'm sorry, it was Star Fox Assault, where they brought in this other female character. I guess they wanted to give Fox a girlfriend. But yeah, those are companions I can think of right now. Yeah.
You know, Sharon, I want to throw this out there. Here's a little fun fact that you may not know. I don't know if you guys played Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, but part of the game is collecting all the different masks. And they each go onto the menu screen in their own little slot, and there's a row of masks in that game, and it is a fox, a rabbit, a frog, and a falcon in a row. It's the crew of Star Fox.
It's how about that? Wow. Yeah, no, I never got to play Majora's Mask. But yeah, that Star Fox, that was pretty innovative for its time also. But yeah, that was a good one.
So I venture to say that you were an avid Star Fox player, because I don't remember any of the characters, man. Shout out to you, man.
Oh man, look,
that's impressive.
I remember Star Fox came out with the FX chip. In fact, I remember when they would speak, they spoke in gibberish. You know,
they were the first game to have the Super FX chip in it.
Yeah, it was. And then I think I want to say that after that, Donkey Kong Country maybe had it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's right at the end of close to the end of Super Nintendo's lifespan. And, you know, when you get towards the end of the lifespan of a console, before the next console comes, there's this weird transition period when the games are getting too good and too powerful for that system. Right. And fixes for that was the Super FX chip. For Nintendo 64, it was the expansion pack. You know, there's always a little something, because these games are more powerful than the systems they were designed for.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you mentioned it came out at toward the end of the life cycle. No, Star Fox came out in about 93, and Donkey Kong Country was 94. I think it had about a good 4 or 5 years left.
He was saying that Donkey Kong Country was at towards the end of the life cycle of the Super Nintendo, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Bill?
It is Super Nintendo.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Running closer towards the tail end.
Gotcha.
As a matter of fact, DK64 was such a mess, the only way they could fix it was the expansion pack.
Right.
because they had so much going on in that game that the console just couldn't handle it.
Right. Speaking of another good side character that we're talking about was Diddy Kong.
Yes.
Since we're talking about Donkey Kong Country, yeah, he was a good companion character.
Look, this is a controversial opinion, and I understand that, but I'm going to put it out there because it's 100% true. On Nintendo 64, Diddy Kong Racing is better than Mario Kart.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree.
I will stand my ground on that.
I agree.
I'm standing ground because that was a great game. In fact, that was like one of the first games I bought, and I still have it with the box and the instruction manual and everything.
Yeah. Also, if you go back and pop it in and take a look at it, there are 2 characters in that game that didn't have games yet, but they do now. And one of the playable characters was Banjo from Banjo-Kazooie, and the other one was Conkers from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Huh. I'm going to go back.
It just said Conker the Squirrel. Yep.
I think there was a chicken in that game also.
Shout out to Rare. Oh
yeah.
Greatest dev studio of all time, of course. So I'm gonna, as far as companions in video games, like everything else, I'm gonna defer to Legend of Zelda. You really started getting companions when you got to Nintendo 64, and you got Navi, the little fairy, who is maybe the most irritating and frustrating thing about the game other than the water temple. She just keeps on the whole time. Over here, listen. Hey. Oh, it drove my wife insane. I was playing back through Ocarina of Time probably 2 years ago. I made the mistake of playing it in my bedroom, and my wife's like, I want to kill that thing. I just want to hurt it. But you go from that, and then you go to Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess for GameCube, and Midna is, to me, the best companion in video games, because she starts off, she has a full character arc of her own. Not only does she help guide the player, you as the player, she helps progress the story, she helps guide the player in the direction that you need to go, she helps you do things, but when she first shows up, you don't like her. You're like, she's annoying, I don't like her, radio. She's this, she's that, she's pushy. As the story goes on and it reveals more of the story, she becomes a more likable character, and by the end of the game, you feel like you really enjoyed your time with Midna as your companion. And I think, to me, that's like the absolute best companion in video games.
Okay, Bill, I have a question. What is your criteria for a perfect companion? What are the criteria?
All right, so I would say you need exposition, someone that's going to explain things to you or lead you to be explained to. I think they ought to help you stay on track with your story, because sometimes you play these large games and you run off doing these side quests and you can kind of lose track of the main story a little bit when you're ready to jump back into it. And likability, like, did you like it? When you look back at Nintendo 64 and Midna, I mean, you look at Navi from Ocarina of Time, you're like, I didn't like Navi. She was annoying. The whole time she was annoying. But you look back at Midna and you're like, okay, yeah, I did like her. She actually had a little bit of a sense of humor. So, they help with the story. They help you do the tasks that you need done, and they're a likable character.
Kazooie.
Yeah.
Mad assistance on Kazooie. A whole bunch of moves that you can't do without her.
Right.
Also, Donald and Goofy in Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And every other character that kind of jumps in, like when you have to supplement.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your childhood right there. You grow up watching Disney movies, and then you play Kingdom Hearts, and it's like, oh, I can, fly with Aladdin, and I can, swim with Ariel, and I can, go to Beast's Castle. It's pretty badass. I love it.
Shout out to Peter Pan, because that was a really cool bit that they added up in there.
I love the Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
On Kingdom Hearts. I would also like to point out that in the first Kingdom Hearts, I don't know how it went on. I haven't kept up with all of them. Donald Duck had a gun, man.
Yeah, but he's a cheat. I'm sorry. Have you not been paying attention?
He's gangster, man. You can see it like in pictures. Like Sora's got the sword and Donald's behind him with a revolver in his hand. I'm like, what is Donald doing back there?
He's packing.
He's gonna chop him down.
Right.
So I would like to say the companion that I don't know, when Sonic 2 first came out, I was kind of on the fence about Tails, and like you said, Billy, sometimes Tails can be a help throughout the Sonic series, and sometimes he can be annoying. So
Right.
that's one of the companions that I bring up. But in Sonic 2, he kind of seemed like he was a nuisance during certain points, and then it's like, yeah, he could fly, but how long could he fly for? What, 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Right.
Not that long.
Yeah.
You know what Tails was to me? You know, like how you have like your cousin or your little brother or somebody who wants to play the game and play because you don't necessarily have to control Tails, but you can. So you give them that controller and they can control Tails while you ran off of Sonic, because the screen's gonna follow Sonic, not Tails, when you're playing in that mode. But you give them like that controller, and then you're free. You know, you just let them do whatever and you just run. That's what Tails was to me in that game. Good little character, cute little character, but yeah. And Tails will help you collect the rings. I think he has that use. The problem with Tails is like when you're running in that half pipe special stage and you're trying to control Sonic, and sometimes if you don't push the button just right, Tails will crash out and he loses rings. But at the same time, if you have finger finesse, you know, Tails can. He'll gain the rings also. But
Wait. Did you just say finger finesse?
You know.
Oh no, dude, that is now in my gaming vocabulary. When my son says, I'm playing Mario Galaxy on Switch right now,
Right.
On Super Mario 3D All Stars, and my son was like, "Oh, how'd you get that star? I always had trouble with that one." And now my answer from now on is going to be like finger finesse.
That's right.
But
That's the answer now.
do you guys feel though, like Sonic Adventure, it was companion overload. Like some of those stories and companions was like,
Yeah.
I feel like they were fillers.
Yeah, to make the game longer.
Sharon.
Yeah.
Finger finesse Fridays.
There you go.
Hey!
There you go. I like it.
That's Friday. Damn. Show me your finger finesse. Like, what games are you good at? Let me see your Pac-Man skills.
Right.
Finger finesse?
And ladies and gentlemen, Sharon is single. He's on the market.
Finger finesse.
We need something that like pops up that's just Sharon.
I agree.
So, Jenny, you mentioned Tooie from Banjo-Kazooie. Have you played Banjo-Tooie?
No.
Okay, so you'll find this interesting. Is in one of the added features for Banjo-Tooie is there's certain part of the games where you get to split them up and they each have their own move set. So you can control Kazooie by himself. You can control Banjo by himself. And in that way, Banjo-Tooie is less a main character and a companion and more partners. Because, I do think Kazooie is one of the best companions out there. But in the second game, they kind of turned it into a partnership.
That seems pretty cool. I never actually got to play Banjo. I'm sorry, I played the first Banjo-Kazooie. I never played the second one.
It's hard as hell.
That's why I stopped playing the first one.
It's hard as hell. I keep trying to get back into it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna play Animal Crossing instead.
It's not hard though.
Yeah, it
kill
is.
me with a lot of the 64 games. I know this is a little off topic. Maybe we can save this for another day. It's like camera angles, and like in the 3D, when you run into the screen, it just threw me off. Like I had like the most trouble with Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, another subject for today: shitty camera angles.
Camera angles were so janky on the Nintendo 64, but Nintendo didn't go like super far to fix that. On the GameCube, Mario Sunshine had decent camera angles, but think about playing Mario Galaxy. You can't really move your camera hardly at all.
Yeah.
Like this that you can't see all the time.
Yeah.
People complain about the cameras in Mario 64. I'll take those all day, every day over the cameras in Mario Galaxy.
While we talking about the angles and stuff in the 3D, what was up with that? The fog, man. Was 64 was notorious for the fog?
The fog was to do with distance rendering. Nintendo 64 did not have the storage capacity to render long distances, so most games put a fog in out in the distance, and that was the distance fog. If you notice, PlayStation 1 games didn't have distance fog because they didn't have the same RAM issues. And a lot of remasters, like any of the Nintendo 64 games that have been remastered, the fog is gone. It's been taken out because they can render more and more polygons with less power now that they've learned how to do it. But in Nintendo 64 days, the fog was sight limitation. That's how far you could make something that you could see it and it didn't look horrible.
Now, I remember, like, you mentioning that, because I'm going to have to go back and look at the fog, but on PlayStation, like, when you would play Ridge Racer, I noticed, like, all of a sudden, like, you wouldn't see the buildings in the background, and suddenly they would pop up as it had to build.
Right. Well, that's one thing, like, okay, so there's technical aspects or whatever, but PlayStation could do far rendering and full rendering at a certain distance, but traveling up to that distance took time to load, whereas Nintendo would have all the way up to there rendered, but then they couldn't render any further. So they were like complete opposites of each other.
Yeah.
PlayStation had a lot better very far distance, and Nintendo had a lot better real close up.
Well, we've come a long way.
Question on the companions.
Yes.
The epic game that changed the whole spectrum for the PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII. The healer, the romance, and the death. How did you feel about her as a companion? And that whole storyline?
I take it we're talking about Aerith here.
Yes.
I just referred to her as the dead chick. I had no emotion about it. I know a lot of people got upset. Like, people are like, oh, no, and it was a big thing when we were young, oh, if you do this, and this, she doesn't die. She always dies. It was part of the story. I never really cared too much. I thought she was an okay character.
I've never played Final Fantasy VII. I know we've talked about it before. I never played it. I know I've heard of her. I've seen it in the movie. Like, I'm guessing she was like a ghost or whatever.
She was a healer. And then her and the main character had like they built in a love story into the game.
And like he would like see her like in the movie and everything. But she was there, but she wasn't there. I guess she had already passed. But the thing is they had pretty much picked up where the game left off. I'm assuming, but that's as far as I got with that.
So, Jenny.
What?
Jenny, you were talking about something with a companion on Skyrim?
Oh,
earlier?
Well, I was going to talk about the Dawn Guard DLC, but I mean, you guys don't play Skyrim, so it's just kind of like falling on deaf ears.
But they do.
Come on, let us hear about the scrims.
Yes.
I mean, Bill just makes me feel so insecure about Skyrim, so I don't like to talk about it. But
why?
If you're gonna pull my finger, yeah, I like the Dawn Guard DLC has this whole storyline that involves like vampires, and it's pretty cool because you can like become a vampire, and like you find out all this shit because there's like this companion called Serana, and you like find her in this place, and she has like an Elder Scroll, which is kind of one of the premises of Skyrim's like you're looking for all the Elder Scrolls, but she has one. And her dad is a vampire lord, and you find out that he's like a big piece of shit, and her mom is like hiding from him, and it's this whole side thing. It's really crazy. And yeah, it kind of reinvigorated Skyrim for me because I had already played through it so many times, and then when that DLC came out and it was like, there's this new companion. She has pretty cool abilities as well. The only thing is, since she is a vampire, during the day, like, she's a little bit weaker in the sun, but if you become a vampire and y'all just do all your shit at night, you're both really powerful. So
so you can become a daywalker in this game as well.
Yeah, you can do all your shit during the day. It's just like every time you step out of a dwelling, you're like your health goes down a little bit and your stamina is kind of slow reviving, but it does go all the way back. There's also you can become a werewolf. I mean, you can't do vampires and werewolves at the same time, but you can do them separately. And of course, they hate each other.
Right.
Pretty fucking cool.
Let me be clear here. I don't hate Skyrim. I don't even dislike it. It's actually my top game on the list of games that I really, really wish I could get into. I've tried it.
Enough time being like, I played it for 15 minutes, just didn't like it. We've been through it. We've talked about it.
Say every time they're like, you only played it for 35 minutes. You don't know anything. You only played it for 45 minutes. You didn't even play the game. And I just have trouble getting into it.
So like, Bill,
it doesn't grab me.
What's the disconnect, man? What's the?
It's first person. I don't like first person games.
Okay.
I don't get that. You're like, I want to adventure. You live in first person, bro. You live in first person. Like, that's how you experience fucking life.
But isn't some aspects of Legend of Zelda first person?
No. It's third person.
Ooh. Lame.
Generally, it's third person removed, and some games are third person over the shoulder.
Yeah.
What if
now? I have also tried a little bit of Skyrim in third person because you can play it in third person. I'm going to play the damn game eventually.
And you said you're like, I just don't like the gameplay. It's just but once you get it, like the Switch, A is B and B is A. Everything is all like different, and you have to adjust to it.
You know what I did to make up for that? I went and bought Dragon's Dogma so I could play that instead of Skyrim because it's a third-person game. You know Dragon's Dogma?
Skyrim.
What if you would have played in VR?
Oh, I don't know.
Because they have Skyrim VR for the PlayStation 4.
They have
I
it
have
for
a VR system. What's that?
They have it on Switch too.
Yeah, but I have a PlayStation VR, and I thought about buying it on there, but the only reason I have not played Skyrim is not because it's a bad game. In fact, I have a friend who has it. It's actually a very good game, but it's just so much time. It's so much time spent with it,
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about it. You can play it for 10 years, but you don't have to. You can play it at your speed.
That's the thing is, I got so much out of Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild pulled a lot of concepts from Skyrim style of gameplay. I understand that. And I probably have close to 200 hours in Breath of the Wild. And Skyrim's the same way. Like, you're going to put 100 hours in that game if you're really enjoying it. I get that. I want to play a game that makes me want to play it for 100 hours.
See, if I didn't work so much, I would probably be all over. In fact, if I ever just chill out, the first game I'm probably going to go out and buy is going to be Skyrim.
Well,
I'll send it to you.
There's a second lockdown looming.
Yeah. Well, sounds like another episode to me.
Yeah. The COVID Chronicles with the arcade cabinet. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. Any closing remarks? But before we close out, he will not send you video games in the Netflix. He'll send you the actual cover, but he won't send you in a little envelope. No Netflix envelope. Bill, take it away, buddy.
So, if you guys looking for video games, consoles, you check out my website. I got you covered. Used games, used consoles, used accessories. I have Super Nintendo fight sticks. If you can imagine it, I have it. More stuff uploaded every day at thearcadecabinet.com. And I will beat anybody's price.
That's what we'd like to hear.
Any other closing remarks? New artwork, Sharon?
Yeah, on Fridays, it got the Sharon's Quarter Challenge, Got to tune in and check it out. What game am I going to play next? Am I going to win? Am I going to lose? You never know. And then you remember, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. So, hey.
You got to finger finesse it, baby.
Finger finesse.
Finger finesse.
Finger finesse.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch us on all the streaming platforms that stream this great podcast, and also ask your Amazon Alexa to play the latest and greatest. So, myself, Mark Furious Nias, Sharon the Painter, Finger Finesse Harrington, Bill Tendo Chipata, and Fiery Fox, and we are the Arcade Cabinet. Thank you for listening.